Hello everyone! Dear students, today we are going to talk a bit more about King Tut. We already learned many interesting things about ancient Egypt and King Tutankhamun himself. Our story, Discovering Tut, the saga continues, deals with the mysteries and various theories regarding the life and death of Tutankhamun, the youngest ruler of ancient Egypt. It is said that Amenhotep III might have been King Tut's grandfather or perhaps father. Amenhotep III was a very powerful ruler who ruled for almost 4 decades. After him came Amenhotep IV, who promoted the worship of Aten, the sun disk. He changed his name to Akhenaten. He moved the religious capital from Thebes to Akhetaten, now known as Amarna, and he shocked his country by attacking a major god Amun by breaking his images and closing down his temples. After Amenhotep IV, there was a new ruler who ruled briefly and disappeared without a trace. His name was Smenkhare. After him came young Tutankhaten. King Tut's name was Tutankhaten. He took the throne and he changed his name to Tutankhamun. Tutankhamun was between 8 and 9 years of age when he ascended the throne and became pharaoh. He ruled Egypt as pharaoh for 10 years until his death at the age of 19. King Tut wanted to restore the old ways. After he died, he was forgotten over the years. But after the discovery of his tomb in 1922, the modern world wondered about the cause of his untimely death. He was brought out of his tomb and a CT scan was done to ascertain the reasons of his death. In 2005, when his mummy was brought out for CT scan, tourists from around the world came to visit the tomb to pay their respects. So, at one point of time, Zahi Hawass, who was Secretary General of Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities, said that the mummy was in a very bad condition because of what Carter did in 1922. In 1922, Howard Carter, the British archaeologist, discovered King Tut's tomb. He investigated its contents. Carter faced difficulty in extracting the mummy out of the coffin because the ritual resins had hardened, making it very difficult, resulting in cementing King Tut's mummy to the bottom of his gold coffin. So Carter tried to loosen the resins using the sun, but in vain. Eventually, his men removed the mummy's head and cut or severed nearly every major joint before reassembling it. This is the damage that Zahi Hawass is talking about. Zahi Hawass scanned King Tut's mummy for an accurate forensic reconstruction. Later on, when the mummy was X-rayed, it showed that the breastbone and the front ribs of the mummy were missing. So Zahi Hawass was revealed to find that nothing had gone seriously wrong with the mummy. We found out that King Tut's mummy was one of the first mummies to be scanned. The CT scan showed a grey head, neck bone, head, several images of the rib cage, and a section of the skull. Today, dear students, we will discuss the following statements and we will give answers or reasons for the following. So the first statement is, King Tut's body has been subjected to repeated scrutiny. Scrutiny means critical observation or an examination, inspection. King Tut died unexpectedly at a very young age. His untimely death gave birth to many speculations. His body has been subjected to repeated scrutiny right from the time of the discovery of his tomb. It has been done so as to know how he died and how old was he when he died. Our second statement is, Howard Carter's investigation was resented. To resent means to feel bitterness at a circumstance, action, or a person. Carter, an English archaeologist, was the first to discover Tut's mummy in 1922. His investigation, however, was resented by many. And this is the reason. Carter's work resulted in great damage to Tut's mummy. Carter's men cut off the mummy's head and severed nearly every major joint of the body in order to raise King Tut from the coffin. Later on, it was found that mummy's breastbone and front ribs were missing. That is why Howard Carter's investigation was resented. Carter's work resulted in great damage to Tut's mummy. Our next statement is, Carter had to chisel away the solidified resins to raise the king's remains. So finally, when Carter reached the mummy, he ran into trouble. The ritual raisins had hardened, cementing Tut's mummy to the bottom of his coffin. He tried to loosen it, but failed. At last, he had to chisel away the solidified resins to free the mummy. It is also said that Carter had little choice, otherwise the place where King Tut was buried would be looted. Our next statement is, Tut's body was buried along with gilded treasures. What we know is that Egypt of Tut's times believed that gilded treasures and other such valuables guaranteed rebirth. The royals believed that the dead could take their riches with them in their journey after death. And they were sometimes buried with everyday things that they would use because they thought they will need them in the afterlife. Our next statement is, the boy king changed his name from Tutankhaten to Tutankhamun. The boy changed his name from Tutankhaten to Tutankhamun because he wanted to restore the old ways. Tutankhamun meant living image of Amun. By changing his name, he expressed his respect to God Amun. Our next statement is, list the deeds that led Ray Johnson to describe Akhenaten as wacky. In the story, Ray Johnson describes Akhenaten as wacky because what he did was nothing less than crazy in those times. He moved his religious capital from the old city of Thebes to the new city of Akhetaten, now known as Amarna. Another wacky act of Akhenaten was attacking Amun, a major god, and also promoting the worship of Aten, the sun disk. He smashed images of god Amun and closed the temples. Ray Johnson was a director of the University of Chicago's Research Center in Luxor, the site of ancient Thebes. And he said, it must have been a horrific time. The family that had ruled for centuries was coming to an end, and then Akhenaten went a little wacky. This is what Ray Johnson said. Wacky means odd. Our next question is, what were the results of the CT scan? The results of the CT scan revealed some wonderful images of King Tut on the computer screen. His neck bone appeared very clearly, as well as other images, a hand and several views of rib cage and skull. Our next statement is, list the advances in technology that have improved forensic analysis. Advances in technology have improved forensic analysis significantly. Forensic analysis has become easier and more accurate. CT technology employs hundreds of digital X-rays. They create a three-dimensional virtual body. Our next statement is, explain the statement. King Tut is one of the first mummies to be scanned, in death as in life. So we remember that Tut's mummy was the first one to undergo a CT scan. The purpose of the CT scan was to reveal how and when the death occurred. The aim was to remove the mist over his mysterious death. That is why it is said, in life as in death, he has been the attention of all. These were some statements, and we will note them down in our copy. Now, dear students, our next exercise is talking about the text. Discuss the following in groups of 2 pairs, each pair in a group taking opposite points of view. So these are some arguments, and a nice debate could be conducted. Today we will just go briefly through each of these. The statement is, number 1. Scientific intervention is necessary to unearth buried mysteries. Now we can favor the statement or we can be against the statement. For example, we can say, no, scientific intervention causes unnecessary complications. We could say that science should not come in between. But then, in favor of this statement, we can say that archaeology has changed a lot. and nowadays it employs sophisticated methods to unearth buried mysteries. Architecture can provide knowledge. Advanced technology gives us conclusive evidence of past events. This is our second statement. Advanced technology indeed gives us conclusive evidence of past events. However, if we are against the statement, we can say that historical knowledge and understanding is the basic thing. We can say that historian is not a scientist and that he deals with human beings and different aspects of their lives which they lived centuries ago. The argument favoring the statement would be, without advanced technology, archaeology is reduced to mythology, and so on. Our next statement is, traditions, rituals, and funerary practices must be respected. We can give some points favoring the statement and some points against the statement. So we can say, for example, yes, all traditions, rituals, and funerary practices must be respected. Or we can say, all traditions and rituals don't need to be respected. If we are favoring the statement, we can say that traditions and rituals reflect the spirit of the age and its people. If you are against the statement, you can say, well, many of these rituals are nothing but superstitions, and so on. Our next statement is, knowledge about the past is useful to complete our knowledge of the world we live in. Here, we can be favoring the statement again or be against the statement. For example, we can say, yes, knowledge about the past is useful to complete our knowledge of the world we live in. Or we can say, no, we live in the present. The present demands our attention, so we should care for people and things of the contemporary world. But then again, we can say, let's remember knowledge about the past. It saves us from many mistakes. There are many more arguments which we can offer. We will move further to our next exercise, thinking about language. Read the following piece of information from the Encyclopedia of Language by David Crystal. Egyptian is now extinct. Its history dates from before the 3rd millennium BC, preserved in many hieroglyphic inscriptions and papyrus manuscripts. Around the 2nd century AD, it developed into a language known as Coptic. Coptic may still have been used as late as the early 19th century, and it's still used as a religious language by Monophysite Christians in Egypt. Our question is, what do you think are the reasons for the extinction of languages? Why do languages extinct? Well, languages live so long as they are spoken. For example, Egyptian is now extinct. At times, changing situations didn't go in favor, so they switched over to more convenient scripts. And what do you think it is important to preserve languages? We can say languages symbolize the evolution and growth of human civilization. They are means of communication, vocal as well as written, for different linguistic groups and communities. They should be preserved. And in what ways do you think we could help prevent the extinction of languages and dialects? We can say that only effective and prompt steps in this direction can help prevent the extinction of languages and dialects. Study of ancient languages and dialects must be given due attention. Language museums can prevent the extinction of languages and dialects. Our next exercise, working with words. First, our assignment is to explain why these combinations of words have been used together. These are some very interesting combinations of words. We have already discussed them. Today we will know the expressions down in our copy. Let's just briefly go through these expressions. Ghostly dust devils refers to the evil movements of dusty winds, and it refers to this strong, angry winds. It reflects the anger of the winds for disturbing the king from his resting place. These winds were as if angry because the king was getting disturbed. Desert sky refers to the lifeless and barren sky of the desert. The barren sky spread over the vast desert region portrays a sad picture. So there was something disturbing happening while King Tut was taken from his resting place. Our next statement was stunning artifacts. It refers to breathtakingly beautiful objects made by humans. Using the words together explains the external brilliance of the objects found in a tomb. They were stunning. Our next combination of words is funerary treasures. Jewels or precious objects relating to a funeral. Treasures relating to a funeral. A collection of valuables. It refers to the fact that the king was buried with numerous treasures and items made of pure gold. Our next statement is scientific detachment. It refers to the application of reasoning and science without attaching any emotion or feeling into the action taken. For example, Carter did not have any reverence or feeling for King Tut. He was just a scientist without emotional attachment to King Tut. Our next combination of words is dark-bellied clouds. It refers to the dark, bulging clouds containing rain, heavy clouds. Casket gray means a box. Casket gray refers to the gray color clouds that hide the stars. In the same way, box is hiding the jewels, as if they were placed in a casket. Eternal brilliance refers to the endless radiance and brightness of the jewels and valuables of the king, which is visible externally. Our next combination of words is ritual resins. It refers to resins used as a customary duty in the process of mummifying a body in ancient Egypt. Virtual body is a figure of the body created through electronic images or CT scan. It resembles a real body and provides a very clear view. Now here we have some commonly used medical terms. And what are their meanings? CT scan makes use of computer-processed combinations of many X-ray images taken from different angles to produce cross-sectional images. These images show a specific areas of scanned object, allowing the user to see inside the object without cutting. MRI means magnetic resonance imaging. This is a diagnostic technique that uses magnetic fields and radio waves to produce a detailed image of the body's soft tissue and bones. Tomography is a method of producing a three-dimensional image of the internal structures of a solid object, like the human body, by the observation and recording of the differences in the effects on the passage of waves of energy hitting those structures. Autopsy is an examination of a body after death to determine the cause of death or the character and extent of changes produced by the disease. Dialysis is the purification of blood by separating the waste products from it to replace the normal function of kidneys. ECG or electrocardiogram is a test that checks for problems with the electrical activity of the heart. It shows the heart's electrical activity as line tracings on a paper. Postmortem or postmortem examination is an examination of a dead body to determine the cause of death. Angiography is a procedure performed to view blood vessels after injecting them with a dye that outlines them on an X-ray. This technique can be used to look at arteries in many areas of the body, including the brain, neck, heart, chest, pulmonary circuit, kidneys, and so on. Biopsy is a medical procedure during which a small sample of tissue is removed from a part of the body. The sample of tissue is then examined under the microscope to look for abnormal cells. These are the meanings of commonly used medical terms. You can use a dictionary or you can see online and you can do this work yourself. Whenever you're having problems with any word and when you want to find out the meaning, just use the dictionary. This is how we learn the language. Now our next exercise for today is things to do. The constellation Orion is associated with the legend of Osiris, the god of the afterlife, like we mentioned last time. Our assignment is to find out the astronomical descriptions and legends associated with the following. First one is Ursa Major, or Saptarishi Mandala. Ursa Major is a group of 7 bright stars that are circumpolar. It can be seen from northern latitudes all the night. This is Ursa Major. Polaris, or Dhruvatara, is a star that remains constant and always points to the north. Polaris is commonly the North Star or Pole Star. Pegasus, or Winged Horse. As per Greek mythology, Pegasus was the winged horse of the Muses. It carries lightning bolts for Zeus. Sirius, also sometimes called Dog Star. This is the brightest star visible from any part of Earth. Sirius, the constellation of Canis Major. And Gemini, or Mithuna. It lies in the constellation of the zodiac. There are 2 stars in Gemini constellation, Castor and Pollux. We will see these constellations in a second. But first, let's see our question number 2. Some of the leaves and flowers mentioned in the passage for adorning the dead are willow, olive, celery, lotus, cornflower. Which of these are common in our country? We can say lotus and cornflower are quite common in India. Can we name some leaves and flowers that are used as adornments in our country? Well, leaves used as adornments are mango, banana, peepal, and flowers used as adornments are marigold, rose, jasmine, lotus, and so on. Now, dear students, today we will note down some short answer type questions and some long answer type questions. Our first question is, why did the boy king change his name from Tutankhaten to Tutankhamun? We said the boy king belonged to a powerful dynasty that had ruled Egypt for centuries. His predecessor, Amenhotep IV, shocked the people by attacking Amun, a major god. Soon after the boy king took the throne, he changed his name from Tutankhaten to Tutankhamun. It meant the living image of Amun. By changing his name, the boy king expressed his respect to God Amun. Our next question is, give a brief description of Tut's reign and his death. We can say young Tut was the last heir of a powerful family that had ruled Egypt for centuries. He ruled for about 9 years after succeeding Akhenaten. He changed his name to Tutankhamun and restored old ways and traditions. His untimely death gave birth to many doubts and speculations. Our next question is, why was a CT scan done on Tut? The fact is that Tut was just a teenager when he died. He was very young. He was laid to rest laden with gold and eventually forgotten. After his tomb was discovered in 1922, a CT scan was done on Tut's mummy to offer new clues about his life and death, and to provide an accurate forensic reconstruction of the young pharaoh. These were few short answer type questions. Now we have long answer type questions. Let's see our first question. Who was King Tut? Describe him and his family, particularly his father and grandfather. We just spoke about his father and grandfather. We spoke about Amenhotep III and Amenhotep IV. So we can say that King Tut was a boy king of Egypt. He was the last heir of a powerful family that ruled Egypt for centuries. He ruled for about 9 years and died unexpectedly at a very young age. His untimely death gave rise to many doubts and speculations. He was laid to rest laden with gold and eventually forgotten. During his reign, King Tut changed his name to Tutankhamun and oversaw a restoration of the old ways. Amenhotep III was Tut's father or grandfather. He was a powerful pharaoh who ruled for almost 4 decades. His son, Amenhotep IV, succeeded him. He attacked Amun, a major god, smashing his images and closing his temples. Then a mysterious ruler, Smenkhare, ruled briefly. After him, a very young Tutankhaten took the throne and restored the old ways. We already spoke about King Tut, his reign, his father, and his grandfather. We will also write down long answer type questions. Our second question is, who discovered Tut's tomb and what problems did he face with regards to Tut's mummy? This is first question. And second one is, why did Zahi Hawass say the mummy is in very bad condition because of what Carter did in 1922? We already said that a British archaeologist, Howard Carter, discovered Tut's tomb in 1922. After carefully recording Tut's treasures, he began investigating his 3 nested coffins. He ran into trouble when he reached the mummy. The ritual resins had hardened, cementing Tut's mummy to the bottom of his gold coffin. Carter tried to loosen the resins by placing the mummy in the blazing sunshine, but it didn't work. At last, he decided to cut the mummy free from the resins. The resins had to be chiseled away beneath the limbs and trunk. Carter's men removed the mummy's head and severed nearly every major joint. In his defense, Carter had little choice. Had he not cut the mummy free, thieves would have cut it and run away with the gold. Zahi Hawass was a Secretary General of Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities. He blamed Carter for mummy's bad condition. When Tut's mummy was x-rayed, 40 years after, it was found that his breastbone and front ribs were missing. Our next question is, archaeology has changed substantially. Justify the statement by quoting from the text. We can say that during the last decades, archaeology had undergone revolutionary changes. The focus had changed from the treasure to the fascinating details of life and mysteries surrounding the death of Tut. Archaeology now employs more sophisticated tools like CT scanning machines. More than 40 years after Carter's discovery, Tut's mummy was X-rayed. It showed that his breastbone and front ribs were missing. Today, diagnostic imaging can be done with CT scan. It can answer two of the biggest questions. It can tell how did Tut die and how old was he when he died. The CT scan revealed astonishing images of King Tut, and the results were very satisfactory. Our next question is, things placed along with Tut's dead body in his tomb formed the richest royal collection ever found everywhere. So why did Egyptians put such things beside the dead body? What did the tourists see inside the tomb? We know that Egyptians believed in life after death. There was a custom in Egypt to place all valuables beside the dead body. Things of everyday use were also placed beside the dead body so that they can be used in the afterlife. The eternal brilliance of these stunning artifacts in gold meant to guarantee rebirth. Tourists from around the world came to see Tut's tomb. They gazed at the wall paintings and the gilded face and gold coffin of King Tut. Our last question is, discuss the suitability of the title, Discovering Tut. The saga continues. We can say, the author A.R. Williams had rightly titled the lesson Discovering Tut. The saga continues. After being discovered in 1922, the mummy of Tut had undergone a CT scan that offered new clues about his life and death. In future, archaeology might employ even more sophisticated tools that could offer some new clues. The line of tourists at Tut's tomb proves how popular the saga has grown since the discovery. Many unsolved mysteries still surround the life and death of King Tut. Only the time will reveal those mysteries. Dear students, these were our long answer type questions. Dear students, let's take a look at our constellations. We said constellations are a group of stars forming a recognizable pattern which is traditionally named after its apparent form or identified with a mythological figure. Today we spoke about Ursa Major and Polaris. We also mentioned our Pegasus or winged horse, Sirius or dog star, and Gemini or Mithuna. Dear students, this was all for today. Have a nice day and see you soon.